Hi,
Hi, great to see you.
you too. How you doing?
Very well. It's a lovely morning here in Texas.
Yeah, I can sort of see that with this. Is that the sunlight like coming into the room?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
beautiful, beautiful. So is your name pronounced Diane or Deanne?
Diane, thank you for asking.
Diane.
Very confusing.
Yeah, I like to get that right from the start. But welcome to the show. It's good to have you here,
Thank you.
all the
I'm
way
very
from
honored to be here.
Texas. Yeah. So before we get started, there's two announcements I want to make on the show.
Great.
The first one is the show has made the top 25 entrepreneurial list with regards to podcasts in South Africa. So yeah, thanks for all the
Congratulations.
support to all the listeners and the wonderful guests such as yourself. The second one, which I believe is much more important, is this is the first show where I have an award-winning kids author join me on the show.
Oh, well,
Thank
I
you.
feel very
Thank
honored.
you. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack with this topic. I mean, from a kid's point of view, psychological point of view, but we'll get to that later on. So, first, let's start with you. Some background history about yourself, growing up, how it all started for you as a creative.
I think I was born creating. My mama said when I came out, I hit a high C. Oh, and but I have five brothers, um, and it was fun growing up in a big family. I'm the only girl, and so you're always, attention getting when you have a big family.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
it's my
yeah.
turn. Give me that. So, but I I started when I was 10 years old in Catholic school. We had um, a little contest sort of thing, but it was a talent show basically. And
Yeah,
and so three of us girls decided that we were going to dress up as nuns and be the singing nuns because they were popular back then, and sing Dominique, which was a French song, a very happy song. And we mimed it. And when I heard that applause when I was 10 and all these smiles, I was like, oh my gosh, you can make people happy doing this. And so
yeah, yeah,
ever,
yeah,
ever since then, I was just like, I love spreading happiness anyway, but I got the bug to
yeah.
be on stage and did a lot of stuff like that. So that's sort of the background as far as how I got started. But I also went to the university and received a degree in elementary education. And then technology came and started training myself in technology. But I was always a storyteller. And so
Yeah, yeah.
eventually I started putting my stories to print.
So I'm going
Very
to assume, did you ever like pursue like teaching like professionally?
Oh, yes. I taught for many, many years. I taught in the Philippines at the American school there. And then I taught here in Texas. And I went to school up in Virginia, though. But yeah, I taught school for a long time from preschool. As far as in the classroom, the highest grade was fourth grade. But then I was that strange teacher that taught herself how to use a computer, and people were afraid of computers back then, and I was like, yeah, no big deal. you know and so I ended up training teachers as well as students through eighth grade on how to use technology. But those were the old days. You may not have been born yet because it was the days of floppy disks.
Oh yeah. I think I was born, so I like grew up when floppy disk was like probably like fading out,
Oh,
and
okay.
then you see these. But I do remember like when I was a kid playing games, it was on a floppy disk. So you
Yes,
had like your Mario that was on a floppy disk, put it in.
yeah.
I still remember having one of those PCs. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, floppy disk did change the world. I mean, when
it
Bill Gates wrote his first piece of software, it went onto a floppy disk.
I know it's amazing how much it changed the world, and actually, I was in the Philippines teaching, and Steve Jobs decided he would use our school as an incubator to see how the computers would do in the classroom. So when
Wow.
I know, amazing, right?
Yeah.
So I I was already used to like lots of computers with my students. So when I came back to America, I thought I'm going to be so far behind the times, right? And I remember being interviewed by the principal, and I said, "Well, how many computers do I get in my classroom?" And he goes, "What?" And I go, "Well, I'm kind of used to 10, but if I could have, one for each kid, I'd really love it." And he goes, "Oh my gosh, you're hired."
It was probably like you're asking for the impossible right now.
You were, absolutely, because we could only go to the computer room once a week. But eventually, I was able to at least get one computer in my classroom because I was going nuts. I already knew how to implement it correctly with the curriculum. It
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah, yeah.
there, so
Yeah. I mean, it's even with me, like, I mean, when I was, at that age, we never have, computers in our schools as well. But I was lucky enough to have a computer at home.
yeah.
So at least I could still, like, educate myself. At that time it was, you had, you were like, we weren't too familiar with the internet and how the internet actually operated, and how, old school internet connections. Unfortunately, we didn't have that in our house,
Yeah.
but you did have, like, what was it called? Wikimedia,
Oh,
which should come like in a disc form.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
and that's how we should learn. Wikimedia, it should have different versions.
yeah,
Yeah, so now this is throwback memories happening right now, where it all started for all of us. Sure. So with
exactly.
regards to, like, teaching in the, like, I'm just trying to get an idea of the teaching landscape from Philippines versus the States. Was there like a major difference?
No,
Um,
not really, because it was an international school, so you were with people from all over the world, which was
right,
extremely
right.
exciting to me. I love being with different cultures, but the curriculum was the same. I mean,
Was
we
this
added a little bit of enrichment in order to be inclusive for the various countries, but basically, they had to take the same tests and
yeah,
everything.
yeah, yeah. What about, like, culturally, like in both countries with regards to education?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm very lucky because the Philippines, they were very advanced, at least when I was there, and even in the barrios in their schools. And actually, I love how they run the schools. Schools start at 7 in the morning, and because they have a large population, they have to rotate. So the kids might the school bell actually ring at 7 in the morning, and then they get out at 1, and then there's a break, and then a new group comes in, and
Yeah, yeah.
so that was something that was very different, but I loved it at the same time. And I thought we in America could learn from that scheduling type of thing. As far as kids around the world, we're all the same. We just want to run, play, have food, get mad at each other.
Yeah, yeah.
No,
Yeah, no, that's very true. I think no matter which country you go to, it's the same thing. You
no,
know,
exactly. And
it's the
I
same thing.
actually had the opportunity to. I lived in the UAE for 14 years,
Yeah,
and so then, because it's a lot cheaper to go from Dubai to like Ethiopian, Kenya, and Uganda, I went to quite a bit for humanitarian work. And
right.
it's a lot cheaper to go from there than it is to go from Texas to different countries in Africa. And of course, there's a lot of cultural difference. But once you're there long enough and you're in the schools, or you're with the people in the orphanage, you just I don't know, maybe I'm a gypsy because I just let go, and it's like I just go with the flow and just like, okay, I can do that. So,
Well, I mean, having that sort of characteristics makes you a good kid's author.
uh,
Right? If you weren't so spontaneous, it'll be kind of difficult. Just
yeah, I think
my
so.
view on it. So, what did you do in the UAE for 14 years? Was also teaching.
No, not actually. Actually, what took us there was my husband's job. He's an attorney, and in the Philippines, he was actually a diplomat, and then
Okay.
he eventually got his law degree. And so he helped open up a law firm in Dubai and Saudi Arabia. And we enjoyed it so
Wow. Yeah.
yeah, we enjoyed it so much. And again, because I love being with different cultures, that we had an opportunity to come home, but I was like, no, I want to keep exploring. And Dubai is an easy place to live. You know, everybody speaks English, and you learn a little bit of Arabic to be polite. And then I actually was signed up for Arabic classes, and they're like, no, no, no. I'm like, please, just English,
Not for
because
me.
obviously I wasn't doing very well. But
Yeah.
it you know, it's very modern in the places we were at, and yes, I did go out to places. Um, they don't call them barrios, but I went out into the different villages and and loved it. I mean, I really did. I loved it.
Yeah. Why I mention that because I mean I'm not sure about like the states and other countries, but there's a lot of like teachers leaving South Africa at the moment and going to teach in Dubai. It's
Mm.
become like a thing. It's a trend, you know, happening.
Well, they have what's called packages, and I think they pay the teachers really well. So I don't know what
Yeah,
a
yeah,
scale is, but I know from the stateside salary to the salary that they get in Dubai, at the American schools, that you get paid a lot better than in the United States. So, and that's pretty common. I think that happens. I mean, it was certainly the way in the Philippines. Though I learned
yeah,
the
yeah,
hard way
yeah.
when I started teaching in the Philippines. I was hired in the Philippines, and so I had to take a Filipino salary, and I was shocked at the difference that um, my stateside friends were getting because they were hired on American. It was strange, but I didn't care. I loved the children, and that's what mattered.
Yeah. You know, when you love what you're doing and you love teaching itself, you know, nothing else
Mhm.
matters. You know,
Yep.
I mean, we look at podcasts in this day and age just to educate people. You know, we're unqualified teachers, but I feel like you can learn more. Like in 2025, in this digital era, even children today are learning more online than they are in the school. Okay,
Right.
because um, especially like in South Africa, my issue with the educational system, it's like so backdated. Okay,
Mhm.
and I'm even like referring to tertiary education. Like, let's use an attorney for example. You're going to one of the top universities in South Africa, and when I look at all my friends' textbooks, it's textbooks that were written in 1994, 1995, and I'm like, is that information like relevant in
Right.
2025? You know,
Right.
that's the question that comes to mind. So, you know, but I mean, it's just how, for me, personal opinion, once again, you know, how the system is designed because, you know, to a majority in third world countries, like knowledge, proper knowledge that is going to enhance your life in all that matters is just like, you know, being hidden. It's not coming out into light. Yet it's there. They know it's there, but it's not. You know, you what's the point if I'm studying to be an attorney and I'm learning something from a textbook that was done in 1994 and you know here
And the laws
comes a
have
modern.
changed.
Yeah, exactly, you
Yeah.
know, now you can study this online, you know,
Mhm.
in some places for free. Now we live in the era of artificial intelligence, you know, let me just ask ChatGPT, what does this mean, you know?
Mhm.
Boom, there's the answer right there. Okay, can you please convert this for me into a legal response to this person? Boom, it's done.
Oh,
You
God.
know, these are like practical examples that I'm not like creating, but I've seen happening.
Mhm.
So
No,
how does it make you like feel? Oh, sorry, no, you can comment on that first.
oh, no, no, I think you've raised some very valid issues. I do believe that it's difficult to keep up with everything. And I remember having to work with educators who'd never had a computer. I mean, I remember when I didn't, and they were very happy and content teaching their curriculum the way they taught it for the last 10 years. And yes, they
Yeah.
kept up their certification because you have to, but it didn't mean they had to change their style of teaching. And then along came people like myself, and we were saying, okay, yeah, you gotta update everything. And they're like, I hate you. So I can't even imagine um, today being in the classroom, because every time you turn around, something changes. And, and like, you were very blessed to have a computer in your household. A lot of kids today still don't.
Yeah.
And so, but they'll have some friend or somebody that does, or their phone is basically a computer if they're lucky enough to have one. And sometimes they know more than the teacher, and that's very scary to the teacher. So
Yeah. Yeah.
we teachers have to really stay afloat of everything. And like I'm taking some AI classes. I will not use AI for any of my writing at all, because I want to know that I wrote that story
Yeah.
absolutely. And I also want students to know that when I come into the classroom and I speak to them as an invited guest, I want them to know that it was my brain power that made that story. And I want to inspire them to use their brain. And yes, you can go to AI for a lot of things, like you were saying, and like laws above my pay grade. But luckily, I have my husband,
Yeah. Yeah.
walking in law book. He's amazing, so intelligent. But I think students, parents, and teachers, all of us basically have to know where to draw the line when to use
Yeah.
AI. I kind of got
Yeah.
off topic, but I'm just kind
But
of passionate about that.
yeah. This is normally a question I bring up at the end of the show. Like
Oh,
whenever an author joins me on, like I always bring up, it's like the cherry on top of the cake question on each show where there's an author, or even musicians as well. Because I mean, AI is playing such a huge role, in the music sector as well. But it's always a question I do bring up in the conversation at the end. But now it's here. So
yeah.
get your point of view. But I mean, what you saying is what any other author out there that's come on the show has said, is that we just need to use it responsibly. You know,
Mhm.
be organic about your work and use AI for research, or if you want to use it as far as editing because you don't have or you can't afford to have a publisher or someone to double check your work, and you self-publishing and you need someone just to fix it. And AI is not perfect also when it comes to that, so you still have to double check AI as well.
Yeah,
But I agree with you. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I do have a writing tool that, even if you use Microsoft Word, it has AI built into it to tell you where you should put that comma. I
Yeah.
mean, so grammar, that's a whole different ball game. It's always good to double check that. So, Pro Writing Aid is what I use for that. But it's totally my words. And again, it's something that's precious to me that I want students also to realize, because I love going into schools and teaching creative writing and having them use their imagination, because so many times kids are just always on their gadgets. And I'm like, put that down. We're going outside. I don't care if you're 13 years old. You're going to lay in the grass. You're going to wiggle your toes in the grass. And you're going to think about what you see when you look up to those clouds. And
Yeah. Yeah.
and you hope you're in a country where there's a lot of puffy clouds. I'm in some states where it's like the sky's just plain blue. where
Yeah. Yeah.
where I live in
Yeah.
part of Texas, because it's close to the water, you get those giant puffy clouds and you can see elephants and alligators and dinosaurs. So
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you brought up such an important point there, that kids need to also, especially modern day kids, like if you're born like your Gen Zs onwards now, they need to spend time in nature, and they're not. It's all indoors, you
yes.
know, and that's a huge issue. So it's just, how we tell, like how you would tell, okay, a kid to look, get off your phone, let's spend some time outside. We also need to tell parents and teachers the same thing at times, you
Oh,
know
absolutely.
not
Absolutely.
walk into a house and it's just after dinner and they're sitting around, but no one's interacting or having a chat about, okay, how was your day? Each one's on, and not
Mhm,
even like for some purpose, like this is going to benefit
mhm,
me. We scrolling through
mhm.
Facebook or TikTok or YouTube, which has a lot of educational content, but the high percentage of people aren't looking at educational content, you know?
No, no, you're
So,
right. And you brought up another really good point, that I'm old fashioned in many ways. So in our home, we still have like a formal dining room. And so we sit down to dinner and lunch and we
yeah.
talk, right?
Yeah, and good for
Um,
you.
Yeah, and so where you can go into a lot of houses that are built today, and the dining room is in front of the television. And people go, "Don't you want to update and do that?" And I'm like, "No, I do not."
Yeah, yeah.
So, we've had various aged kiddos here where I've set up, a proper table and had to teach them which fork was for what, and so forth. But but they're so grateful, and they're like, "Wow, I learned so much just about etiquette, right?"
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and I talked. I didn't miss my phone. And and you're excited, but then it's also a sad statement, don't you think?
It is. It is. It's it's like kids, want to explore, like how, you and I explored growing up,
Mhm.
but they just
Mhm.
haven't been showed that by their parents. And not
Mhm.
that their parents are bad, it's just that, we're living in this era now. And then they come across a parent like you and like, wow, I never knew this existed. I never knew walking on grass would be so cool for me.
I
You know?
know. And it feels
Yeah.
so good. It feels so
Yeah,
good.
exactly, exactly. I mean, there's a lot of work that needs to happen in the sector, but I mean, as long as you keep pushing on your mandate and myself as well, we'll make progress wherever possible.
Yes.
Like, yeah, I did an article in 2021 with the local media, and it was around that same topic, but it was actually targeted at bullying,
Mhm.
bullying in the modern age,
Mhm.
because now bullying has gone online,
So sad.
cyberbullying when something happens in the school now because there's no proper control coming from teachers.
Mhm.
A video is taken, and I mean, that kid's life is like ruined for a long time,
Yeah.
which can lead to, depression, anxiety, suicide numbers are on the rise.
Right.
And, the article was that teachers and parents need to take responsibility.
Right.
It's on you. If you allowing kids to, I'm not saying don't have technology in the schools, but if you allowing them to over abuse it for reasons not related to education at all, that's on you. And
Yes.
parents, if you are going to allow, your kid to sit in front of the TV while, it's dinner time and play on his phone while watching TV, then that's on you as well.
I
Take
agree.
accountability.
I agree
Yeah.
100%. And some of the things, that if you're in a school long enough and you get to know the kids and they will trust you for some reason, you're like kind of shocked because maybe you've only been there for a week, and they know
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
for 2 weeks. But I guess they feel your spirit and they can tell, like, I can trust them. And they'll, come up to me and say things, that I'm just really, well, yes, your mom and dad really do care. No, no, no. They just, go about stuff and put the food in front of me. And I'm just like, well, why don't you try saying, let's all sit down to eat? And they were like, uh, can I do that? Or
Yeah, yeah,
I wouldn't know what to say because they hadn't learned how to socialize.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but you know what? I said that a couple of times at different points, and I was kind of surprised that I found myself. But I thought, well, this is why I'm here. Not so much to be an invited author, but that kid needed me, right? And
100%. Yeah.
and yeah, and so one kid actually said, I did ask my parents to sit down and eat with me, and you know what? Mrs. Bain, they did. I almost fell over. And so maybe I started something. So yay.
Yeah, no, well done to you. Should be proud. You should
I'm
be
very
proud.
proud.
Yeah.
Every day I
So
wake up and I give blessings and thanks that my eyes opened up because I think and I try to tell people no matter how bad a day it is, you lost your brother like I lost a brother recently. I mean, horrible, right? Losing a parent, horrible.
yeah, yeah.
But you were blessed because your eyes opened. So what can you do to bless someone else? Because obviously you were meant to be here. And that's kind of how I look at the world and how I look at my writing too. What can I do with my story? What purpose do I want with this story? So when a child reads it, he or she, or even the parent, they want more, or they're like, so I read that story to my kid, but I think she was talking to me.
Yeah. No, well done for you. Well done. I'm going to give you a clap for that. For what?
Thank you. Thank you. I lost your sound. After the clapping, I lost your sound. But
Okay,
there,
I should
I
be
heard,
back.
you're back. You're back. Yay. You got to love technology.
Yeah. The crazy thing about this condenser mic, so I also co-host another podcast which is called Talking Back to Suicide. I never have issues with the condenser mic; it never cuts off. But I notice when I do individual like solo shows, I have like it cuts off here and there, and then I have to unplug it. Then I move over to like the laptop mic, and then I come back here. But technology, has its flaws. What I was saying was, you should actually consider starting your own podcasts on the topic. You're
Oh,
good at it.
well, thank you. I'll just come back and be your guest and you can ask me questions.
Or if you ever decide to do it, I'll be your first guest.
Oh, that's a deal.
Yeah. So let's touch on your book. Let's touch on Mr. Boomer.
I
Okay.
love Boomer.
How did Mr. Boomer come to our lives?
Come to life, right?
Yeah.
So, COVID was going on. And at that time, we were living close to my mama because she wasn't doing well. So we had this house rented out that I'm in right now, and I wanted to be able to be with her, so we rented another house close to her, and where Mama lived, out in a town outside of Houston, Texas. It's called a livable forest. So within minutes, everybody can be somewhere within the forest. So COVID was tough, but luckily we had the forest. So I would get up early in the morning, when the birds are still chirping and walking around, and all the little squirrels and everybody are coming to have their morning breakfast because the sun hasn't quite come up, and so it's still
Yeah.
a little cool outside, right? And there was always this one rabbit that seemed to be around. And so I don't know, I just got to know this little rabbit. I don't know if it was the same one or not, but I've decided it is. And he would just be happily eating, and then he'd go down the little path, and then I thought, you know what? I need to write a book about this little rabbit. And I named him Boomer. And actually, I came up with a name with the help of my grandson because I had different names. And he goes, no, no, no. And he was 2 years old at the time. He goes, I like Boomer. Boom, 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 Boomer.
And that is how Boomer was created.
And that is how Boomer was created. So,
So,
and
like
I'm
with
very
your character building, like, what's your process with that?
well, with every story or character, there's a reason for it. And for Boomer, I don't know, I came up with the idea that he's a curious little bunny because in observing a real bunny, he just seemed to always be like, he'd hear a bird and he would stop and his little head would turn. And he had actually listened for a few minutes before he went on. And I thought, that's just like children or even us when we walk outside and we hear the birds. If we can just slow down enough to do it, I hope we do, and listen. And so I thought, okay, I want to, in school, when you're teaching kiddos, young ones, preschool, kindergarten, you need to teach recall. And I mean, in all grades you do, but you need quick, fast recall. And so I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to write a story where, we use the senses, hearing, and then there is another one that hopefully is going to be touching. And then he has to discover all these things, but then he has to recall how to get back home. And then the kids have so much fun going, because when you're reading to them, you don't read in person, to the kids, you don't read word for word. You're like, and what happened next? And
Yeah.
preschool teacher in me comes out and I get really excited. Okay, so he saw the bird, but then what did he do to get home? He's needing to get home, and they're all just trying to remember, and then they say the word, and that's the purpose of that book. Is they're so
Yeah.
Boomer gets home.
Yeah, so I mean, because of course the book has like a much larger mandate. There's the bigger purpose behind it.
Oh,
It's
yes.
yeah, it's a kid's book, but I mean, you not only for kids but for parents to like implement that story, into real life, as you like briefly explained.
Right, right.
It needs to make an impact like both sides.
Exactly. So, in Boomer sees the town. He ends up in a town, but he's aware of what's going on. So that is something we want to teach our kiddos to be aware what's going on around them. Don't just walk to the car. What's oh my goodness, there's bees in the little
Yeah,
flower.
yeah,
Just stop for a second and watch the little bees. They're so fun to watch, or
yeah,
the birds up there singing, like take a moment, see what's around. And when you're in the car going somewhere, inspire the children to look up from their little contraption, put it down. What did you see? Like, for example, I would have my kiddos if we were going on long drive. So I have three grown adults, but I call them kiddos. But when they were little,
yeah.
I would say,
They'll always be babies.
yeah, 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 absolutely. No matter, I would say, okay, yes, it's a long trip, or we're stuck in traffic. Can you count for me how many houses do you see? And just take their mind off of it. And then if we end up going along the same route later on, they'll go, oh, I remember this route. Those are those trees, that I saw. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's the same thing. How can you apply it to your life?
It's like we've forgotten how to live in the moment, to
Yeah,
be
oh, so
present,
true.
to be
Hmm.
grounded.
Hmm.
You know, that's the thing. Kids, teenagers, adults, like even myself at times, like we'll be anxious about something, but we're not looking around us and, appreciating this moment and, what's right in front of us, the people right in front of us. That
Right.
experience alone, because we're never going to get it back.
We're never going to get it back. Beautifully stated.
Yeah. So, I mean, you teach kids that, at an early age. And I mean, like you've been to the Philippines. I mean, this is practiced a lot, that side of the
Mhm.
world, you know? Like I've been to Thailand and I mean, it's practiced every day,
Right.
basic
Mhm.
principles of Buddhism,
Mhm.
if we had to practice that, like where we from, and then further west, life becomes so much more beautiful.
It
You know,
does.
kids will grow up with less anxiety, depression wouldn't be an issue anymore.
Mhm.
Being
Mhm.
stressed out about stuff that's not going to matter in 5 years.
Exactly.
And then you look back at your life and wonder, like, but what did I really do? And I should mention this a lot to like I was the naughty kid, in school, but it's not, I rebelled against what I was getting taught, you know. And for me, when I look at the world today, I was right, you
Mhm.
know. And I look at everyone who played it by the book, right? All the friends I had that played it by the book. They left high school, they went to college, they went to university. I decided not to go, that route. I wasn't going to spend 6, 7 years of my life, because I knew like where the world was going and how technology was evolving. I'm like, no, that's where I want to be. But then I look at how they actually handle the real world and they couldn't.
Mhm.
They couldn't handle failure, they couldn't handle setbacks, depression became an issue, anxiety became an issue. They never experienced like staying alone before just leaving your parents' house and then, getting married. In your case, exploring the world, checking out another country, different cultures, which brings so much beauty to one's life. So I should always say my parents, at least, or in this, present day, if I look back at my, life, school career, and so on, I got no regrets because I experienced so much, the good
Mhm.
and the bad. It taught me so
Mhm.
much about life. You
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
it took my brain and just transformed it into this. I don't even know what's the word to use, but like I was imagination played such a huge role, and it still plays a huge role in my life. And I
Mhm.
know imagination with kids is also one of your mandates, which
Yeah.
is so important. Kids need You need to give them that space to imagine, what my life can be, what the world can be. Nothing is impossible. Not There's no limits.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, my gosh, I could talk all day about this. Number one, you were probably a very, very gifted student and you were bored because you already figured a lot out.
Yeah,
and
true.
and sometimes it's hard for teachers to deal with gifted kiddos. They rather just put them in the corner. And I would always get upset about things like that. The but you listened to your soul, you listened to your instincts, you listened to what was right for you. And therefore, you didn't get depressed or have anxiety because you were following your instincts of who you wanted to be. For me, I was that follow the rule kind of kiddo. Now my brother, one of my brothers, like absolutely not, but he was like you, just really brilliant, and I think the teachers didn't know what to do with them. But eventually, I realized that there was this whole giant world out there, and it wasn't a, I wasn't, going to go sit in the corner because I decided to explore when I probably would have went, I don't know, can I do that?
Yeah,
But and once I broke free from that thinking, then this major opening of life happened for me. And I didn't get to go, well, I did go straight to college, but I won a scholarship, a part-time scholarship, a small scholarship, small, for singing. And
yeah,
that allowed, me to, because my daddy said, okay, you can go to college, but you need to get a scholarship. I don't care how much, but something to help. And of course, it was so tiny. So I got a scholarship, and he goes, well, that's not enough. And I go, that's not what you said, Daddy. That's not what you said.
yeah.
And of course, he's like, but you're 18 years old. Don't you want to just get married? And I looked at him and I said, I have 5 brothers. I know what marriage means. I do not want to get married.
Wow.
So,
And I guess you probably had like a serious face when he asked you that question.
oh, I had an absolute serious face. Like, I do not like. I remember taking off. I had a little senior ring at the time, and I remember taking that ring off, and Daddy's like looking at me, and I'm like, "Do I will? This ring does not mean I have to wash your dirty underwear. It does not mean I have to wash all your clothes." And I'm thinking all these things. And he's like, "Is that what you think marriage is?" And I go, "Well, Mom's a nurse. When she comes home, all she does is laundry."
Now, what was his response to that?
Daddy just shook his head, but he was an amazing man. He's in heaven now, um, and our family misses him deeply. But he made us be responsible. You didn't just go to college. You also had to have a job to help pay for the books. If you wanted a car, you had to learn how the car worked. You had to learn how, and cars were much different. Cars are basically computers now, but in those
Yeah,
days,
yeah,
like um, the neighborhoods, the neighborhood on one block with my oldest brother, that the dads all got together and they bought a junk heap of a car, and they all had to, the boys spent the whole summer, instead of getting in trouble, they spent the whole summer learning how to put this car together, and they were so proud when they got this jalopy working, right? But it kept them contained, not in trouble, and working on things. And so I'm a girl, and there's no way that I, am going to be able to have the strength to change a tire and all that kind of stuff in those days. But he would make me watch how it happens. And then in those days, you had like ball bearings and all this kind of stuff in a tire. And I had to learn how to grease those ball bearings and do stuff with my brothers. I had to learn how to go underneath the car and change the oil, do a gasket and
yeah.
stuff. And then he made it where I didn't want to drink Coke for a while because I watched him pour Coca-Cola on the battery to clean out the cables, And I'm like, oh my gosh, what's that doing to my tummy, Daddy? He goes, don't worry about it, but it gets the acid off really well. But teaching kids those kind of things it's very responsible. And so I think for me, not I didn't get anxiety, I didn't get depression because mom and
Yeah,
dad were always teaching us things about life skills.
yeah.
So the toilet stopped up. What are you going to do about it, Diane? There's a plunger in there. I'm like,
This reminds me of Karate Kid. I think it's the first one.
oh yeah,
Yeah, where Mr. Miyagi is teaching him, that hands off or on, something like that.
oh
And then
you're
he's
right.
wondering, like, why am I doing this, on a car? And the bigger
Mhm.
lesson out of that was it taught him how to, defend himself,
You're
you know?
absolutely right. I forgot about that. I know my kids,
Yeah.
but
So
you're
it's
absolutely right.
it's the small things that our parents, teach us. Like cleaning. Okay. You've
Mhm.
mentioned, the toilet, like when my mother used to say, okay, take the bucket, fill it with water, take the cloth, and go wipe the floors or wipe
Right.
the furniture. And you're like, ah,
Mhm.
no. And if you don't do it, you're getting a club. So you have to go do it. But I
Right.
mean, those little things that we found so frustrating as kids has taught us so much about life. It's
Exactly.
disciplined us. Yeah. You
Yeah.
mentioned responsibility.
Mhm.
I mean, just that. So, what would you say, right, to parents out there in 2025 in this technological era where culture has changed so much, right?
Mhm.
And you in your 20s or early 30s, and now you have a family, you got a kid, and you don't know how to go about it,
Mhm.
because even though you in your early 30s, you like still a kid yourself, right? So,
Right.
what would you give? What sort of advice would you give to, those mothers and fathers out there that are like, okay, what do I do? Do I just like buy one of these tablets? Okay, let me leave him with that. What YouTube videos, which some are doing? What do we do?
An excellent an excellent question. Um, Family history is precious to me. And I think that diving into family history, and maybe you hadn't even done that before, but ask questions if you have your parents with you. Start gathering family history. If you were in my home right now and you started to go downstairs, you would see a root wall, a family tree wall. Excuse me. And it has family from like the 1800s up to now that we have pictures of my
Wow.
husband's side and my side. Pictures of my mom like when she was 13. And so like I remember when my oldest daughter was 13 and she wasn't feeling good about herself, and cuz that's when that hormonal age where everything's going dorky, and she's not feeling, like, oh, I'm so ugly, And so I remember taking a picture of my mom's 13-year-old picture where she's all freckle face and all this curly hair and all this, and moving it right to where when my daughter sat right at the top of the staircase. If she looked over, she would see my mama. And I remember it did exactly what I wanted. My daughter said, Mom, are you sure that's grandma at 13? I go, yeah. And she goes, but grandma's so beautiful now. And my mom could have won Miss America in her younger years. And I said, yes. But, she had to go through the dorky stage in order to make all that happen. And that's just what you're doing. So when you're finished going through that dorky stage, like look at me at 13. So I put all our 13-year-old pictures there and I looked like a squirrel face, and kids teased me because I had buck teeth. And so they called me Rabbit. And so, Boomer, maybe that's really why I went
Yeah,
with.
yeah, yeah. I want to say the same thing after
Yeah,
you finish. Like
yeah.
probably
So,
that's how it all came about. That's why
yes.
rabbits like whole like you know
So anyway,
most
I
part
get
of the
carried
yard.
away, but I'm very passionate about family history because you can learn all the facts that you want in the world, but knowing your roots, knowing, oh, that widow's peak, that's where that little point comes. My daddy had a little widow's peak. So I tell my nephew, you got that widow's peak from your great grandma and your daddy. And then I show them those pictures and they're like, wow, and they want a copy of that. And they feel this sense of who they are. And when a kid can feel a sense of who they are, and the parents are joined into this family history, it just brings you together and you explore, and then you start learning about each other. Because I think the hardest thing for parents today is that, and including my day, is that we're go, 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 go. And I got to get him here. I got to get him there. I got him do this. And we almost
Mm,
have kids into too many things. And we don't stop and just
yeah,
take a
yeah,
break and go, what do you really love to do? And go, well, actually, I like to sing. And the mother's thinking, oh my God, you're tone deaf. Why do you like to sing? But they're never going to say that, because your job as a parent is to, well, honey, you just keep on singing, and it'll happen. And because when the parent says that, that child will keep practicing singing, and
yeah,
they may
yeah.
not become an opera singer, but you know what? They could end up writing some really great songs for the world.
100%. That is so true and so beautiful what you just said. Like
Thank you.
embrace what your kid is doing, you know,
Mm.
and
You
what they
say
want.
it so much better than me. I get carried away talking. Oh, I'm a
Oh.
storyteller. That's why.
Exactly, exactly. I was I was just thinking while you were talking, I watched Danica Patrick. If you haven't heard of her, you can check for on YouTube and her episodes that she has there. I watched one of her episodes was I think on Tuesday with the guest that she had from India or London or India, but it's Indian, but from one of the two. And anyway, she was talking about how our children are old souls. When we were children, we were old souls. Now you're talking about family history. There's a reason, that we have certain, you know, characteristics or something, like you were explaining about the forehead. And so you're like, there's a reason we have that. It's old souls. So it's going to stay
Mhm.
in, the bloodline. And she
Yes.
was she was going into like, okay, when she talks to her daughter, she doesn't talk to her daughter as a kid. She talks to her daughter as any other person that you would talk, with out there. So if I am going out and I'm going to be coming home late, she said that I will have a chat with my daughter. I am going out tonight with my friends. I am not sure what time I'm going to be back. Please go to bed on time so you get enough rest. And if you need anything, your father is around, or you can get the nanny, whatever be. And the daughter responded, yes, mama, be safe
Mm-hmm.
and I'll see you in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a dull conversation because you're having a discussion with an old soul. And
Yes.
the reaction is so much more better and you get so much more out of it, I feel.
Yes. I
That
agree.
like was like, wow, to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Absolutely. Great advice.
Like
And
communication, you know?
communication, right?
Yeah,
That's
not
why
like,
they
oh.
say when you have a baby, don't do baby talk, just start talking.
Not this, and, squeeze the cheeks a bit. Yeah, no, that really did hit me, and then because I also reflected on, okay, how it was. It's not that my parents never loved me growing up, it's just that they grew up in a different time. So the
Mm-hmm.
things they did and the roadblocks they created, they did it out of love in their way. And
Mm-hmm.
possibly when I reached high school, now I was at that age where I was like, no, not happening now. Now I'm breaking out of this. Now I'm going to pursue, my musical career and I'm going to DJ because that's what Kino wants to do. So,
Mm-hmm.
then it takes time for them to adjust and then they see, wait, he's actually making it work, he's doing something with it. Then like, okay, okay.
Okay.
So, at times, and we don't want to, I mean, look at this psychology of it, okay? If those things happen to you as a kid, it goes into your teen years and then it goes into your adulthood because you haven't cleared up your subconscious, but that's a topic for another day. But the moment you find yourself and you like wake up, hopefully like in your 20s or your 30s, like I had to be like, nah, something's not right here. Like even though I broke out of that, I pursued certain things, but there were still many psychological barriers. And that was due to past generations of my families, stuff I needed to actually break out of. And then I'm like, okay, now I need to start concentrating on this. And then you decide, okay, I'm not gonna do a job 100%, and I'm just going to leave that and focus full time on this. And then you have to now go backwards now, because you've lost out on so much. Okay, from kid, teenage, 20s, you've lost out on so much. Now you have to go back, study, and learn the stuff you should have learned back then, but you never, because you had all these blockages up there. And now in your 30s, you're like, okay, now catch up game, it's catch up game.
Mhm.
It's not a
Mhm.
nice road to go down, but that's where you will end up, you know. So
Mhm.
parents should embrace what their kids are passionate about. Ask them, what are you passionate about? You know, tell me, whatever it may be. Even if
No.
it's to be Spider-Man. I don't know.
Absolutely. And before you close out the show, you made me think about something because of what you just said. I always say sometimes we kids, even adults, get hypnotized by what somebody said. So I can clearly remember a sixth grade teacher embarrassing me in front of the entire class and ripping my work up. And I was just mortified, because it was in front of the whole class, and it was sixth grade, and I was at that dorky age, and my parents gave me this perms that was horrible. Anyway, so I just wanted to hide under a table, but I loved art until that point. And I never, as soon as we only had to take it for 6 weeks, I never touched a paintbrush after that. And it wasn't until I went to Dubai and I had some free time that a friend said, come take silk painting with me. No, 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 no. And then I saw her work and I went, you know what? I am going to do that. And so I did. And I brought back this passion that I had as a little girl that teacher robbed me from by telling me I would never be an artist and I was terrible, and then ripping my work in half. And and it freed me to where in some of my very first books I did the artwork. And so I say to the listeners, if anyone ever told you no, but you really deep down inside wish you could bring it back, just do it, because don't let anyone hypnotize you.
Nice, nice. Thank you for that. Thank you. That's impactful. It also makes me think, like as creators, you would relate to what I'm about to say as well. How many times have people told us, no, we
Mhm.
will never do what we're doing today?
Mhm. Mhm.
We're doing
Mhm.
it right now. We would
Mhm.
never, you would never do it. And we just kept going, following, that voice saying, no,
Right.
this is what you're
Right.
meant to do. Go and do it.
Mhm.
Don't wake up, 50, 70 years from now and then you're going to be like full of regrets. Why didn't I?
Why didn't
You
I?
know?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why we had that
'Cause-
little, there's a lot of voices in our head, but that one special voice that's trying to get you to be on that right path, you know, just go
Yeah.
for it. And maybe you haven't done something in a long time, but doesn't mean you can't do it now.
Yeah. Stop chasing the wrong things in life, is what I say,
I,
because that's how, we were brainwashed, you know,
yes. Yeah.
chasing the wrong things that you need to have your life sorted out in your early 20s and you need to be married and you need to have a big house and a car, but it's all debt, right? It's all
Yes.
debt.
Yes.
And no matter how much you earn, you're just going to keep chasing more. So you're never going to find happiness until you fall off that cliff. And
Yes.
then you're going to
That's
wake up in your 60s, 70s, if God
mhm.
actually, you get that blessing to live for so long. And you'll
Right.
be like, why didn't I do it? And then you're going to look back at your life and be, I was so happy for a majority of my adulthood because I just never follow my heart.
Mhm.
You know, I kept
Yeah.
listening to the whole world and what the whole world was saying instead of listening to my own heart.
Mhm.
It reminds me of I can't remember the movie, but it was a monk. It was a monk from Bali, and he said that you must stop listening to what's up here, start listening to what's up here, and see from here. Don't see from here, see from here.
I
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, and that's what we need to do. Creative. We're all creators. Okay,
Yes.
we're all creators of our life, no matter
Yes.
what the part. No, but this has really been an impactful show. So where can listeners find you online?
So it's my website, my name, which I think everyone can see there, So if you just go to Diann Floyd, and it looks like Boehm, we just happen to say Boehm. That's another whole story all by itself, maybe or something. But DiannFloydBoehm.com, you can find me there, and be sure to sign up for my newsletter. And also, I love hearing from people. You know, sometimes people will send me a picture of their kiddo's artwork of a camel, and I just love seeing it because I have a book with a camel in it, and they loved carrying that camel, so that was kind of cool. And
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I love to hear from people. It would be really great. And I want
correct.
to share with you real quick this one song you made me think of. When we have hard times, there's this really great song, "You'll Never Walk Alone." Do you know it?
You'll never walk alone.
It's from a musical, Carousel. And when you, I love singing that song. When you hear this song and these words, you can get through any storm.
You'll never. The only song that comes to mind with that has yeah, you'll never walk alone is Liverpool Football Club.
A football club. Okay.
Yeah, that's the anthem. But you'll never walk alone. Who's the artist or songwriter?
Shirley Jones from a long time ago sang it along with a cast member, but it's an older song. It's from a musical, so it's not something that you hear on the pop charts. But it's called "You'll Never Walk
Yeah,
Alone,"
yeah,
and it's very inspirational. I'm all about songs that tell a story, and
yeah, yeah. It has
that one
meaning.
hypnotize you. Uh,
Okay, I'm gonna going to search for it, and once I do find it,
I'll
I'm
send
confident
it
I'll
to you.
find it.
I'll
Yeah,
send
yeah, send it to
it
me, and I'm also going to add that in the description of the show.
to you. Okie dokie.
Have it there, and then I'll also share your Amazon profile, which has all your other books. I know you've also done young adult books. So yeah, we definitely need to have another chat in the future to come.
I would love
But
that.
one last, yeah, definitely. And then we can also touch on your surname, the story for another day. Okay,
Sure.
so just one more question. So, Boomer, it's book one, there's a sequel on the way.
Yes, Boomer, Here's the Forest. And the other one is written, but I can't say the name yet, but it's a really good one.
Yeah, okay, okay. And when can readers expect the next one?
So you can get on Kindle, Boomer Sees the Town right now, and it'll be in hard copy and soft copy in April. And then this summer, Here's the Forest will be coming out.
Nice, nice. Yeah. And you also have a YouTube channel, correct?
Yes, I do. I need to get back to work on it. I do the story garden, but I took a hiatus for a while. Um, I was so sad when my mom died, and it's been a couple of years. But what you see behind me is called the Story Garden, and I have a collection of books. They're all children's books from either my grandmother or my mom, and books my mom read to my brothers and I, as well as books that I've read in the classroom and or to my children. And so I just need to get back doing it. I know mother would want me to, but I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
just really
definitely.
sad for a long, long time. So
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
that's
My
okay. Everybody
condolences.
loses a parent,
Yeah,
and I know everyone can relate, but I don't understand it when people say, "Oh, it's been 6 months, just get over it." And I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, how cruel."
yeah. I mean, okay, I haven't lost a parent, but I mean, who can get over that, right?
I don't.
Who can get over that? But I'm so like I admire you so much of like how you speak about your parents and your family history. Like that's so important, and you really get that in society today. It's so easy. I mean, there's people who go years and years while their parents are still alive, and they don't even talk with their parents because of some petty family dispute. I mean,
Yeah,
really?
yeah,
Like really?
yeah,
um but once again, this goes back to a certain component of modern culture, versus generations ago. If you look at divorce rates, modern versus years ago, it should never happen. If you wanted to get a divorce years ago, you couldn't talk about that with your family or whatever. They'll make sure it doesn't happen. But these days it's
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, it's like one of those things.
Yeah.
So even with that, so I admire you for that. I admire how you keep the name just going on and on and on.
Thank you
That's
very
really
much.
cool. Yeah,
Thank you.
that's
I'll
really
shoot.
cool.
I'll take a picture of my history wand, since family history wand.
Yeah, I would love to check
I'll send
that.
you a
That's
private
wow.
picture.
Yeah. I think the only time I've seen something like that is on Harry Potter.
Gosh,
With the
you're right.
tree.
It is,
yeah.
and they kind of
The tree. Yeah.
yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, but I mean, it's important to know about your family history, your ancestors, and play
Sorry,
such an
I didn't know
important
my
role.
phone was in here.
Okay, Dan, thank you so much, and keep doing what you're doing.
I
It's been
will.
an honor to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, perfect. Enjoy the rest of your wonderful sunny day.
I will. Take care. God bless.
Okay, bye.
Bye.